Hey, Stevie and I here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with another High Octane walk around. This time it's the class of 1956 or 57, you decide. Now it's been over 60 years since these cars were brand new, but they really look the part now. But it's interesting, from the 1950s there are a variety of styling touches that are consistent and used year by year. And the 56 Thunderbird, we see a big chrome bumper with overriders right here. They kind of emulate the look of a jet plane intake, but they don't do a damn thing except add a lot of class to these cars. And of course, the hood of all Thunderbirds, 55, 6, and 7, has a functional hood blister that truly is a scoop. It admits air into the top of the air cleaner, so on a cool day you can get an extra charge of air. Cooler, denser air makes more power. This is Ford style, of course, 2 seats only on Thunderbirds from 57, 55, and 56, baby birds. This, again, is a 1955 Chevy Bel Air. Some would say this is the classier car. Same long, wide bumper with overriders right here. And again, just a space-age motif right here with the little bomber jet thing here. And the interesting thing I see in this, the Chevy was a mass-produced car with integral hood hoops like this, the headlight brows, whereas on Fords, these things were add-ons which required a seam, kind of an unsightly seam. It also allowed the same part to be used on the Ford Fairlane with a similar stamping of metal, whereas Chevrolet stepped up and no seams here and no lead bodywork. A Cadillac would have, they'd try to hide all seams if possible. For an economy price car, the amount of finish work on the 55 Chevy gets to win in my book. And one thing too about the 56 T-Birds was the fact that these were the first ones with a porthole in the side. The 55s had no porthole. People complained about nasty passing situations where you had horrible over-the-shoulder visuals, and so this was added for 1956 and 7, the portholes. And like any self-respecting American car from the 1950s, you got to have tail fins. In the case of the Thunderbird, these are wonderful little elegant styled tailbird fins right here, and the Thunderbird motif there in the quarter panel, an actual die-cast metal structure. Chevrolet also had a vestigial tail fin. It wasn't quite as big as it would get in 1957 when that elevated fin would arrive and replace all of this stuff and make that look really old and obsolete. But something we see for the first time here in 1956 is the externally mounted spare tire. And the punchline to that was, in 1957, they went to an internally mounted spare tire, which made it happy. People trying to load groceries and stuff, and stowaways were thrilled because they could just open the trunk without having to mess around. And the fuel filler is right here. With the spare tire down, you have to remember to open the trunk and, or fill the fuel right through there. Whereas in Chevy land, the fuel filler is on the driver's side rear quarter panel right here. It'd be the final year. In 1956, it would go into a little hidden cavity right here, but this is the final year for the quarter panel fuel filler. And again, same thing here, big chrome bumpers, overriders in the back. These were extra cost in many cases, plate lights, etc. So all the basic safety stuff. This is long before airbags or even seat belts were not even an option at this point in time. But inside these cars, a lot of cool custom touches. This one here being a 1955, has the 110 mile an hour speedometer, and with the 265 V8, it could probably get up to 110 with a long enough run. So there it would be, but 110 miles an hour, not very sporting, but for 1957, that would become 120 mile an hour speedometer. Meanwhile, over in Thunderbird land, let's take a peek on the interior of this one here. And in keeping with the jet fighter motif and these swoopy tail fenders right here, and even the exhaust tips on these things came out through the muffler, or through the bumper, right there, dual exhaust, standard fare. And basically you didn't have to pay extra for that. And that's a cool little touch right there. At Barrett Jackson, I used to say the art of the exhaust tip. And it's so true, it's a marketing tool right there. Also functional. The only downside is it does tend to soot up the bumper and your fingers if you're not careful. Anyway, that's going to wash out. And then let's see, we get inside this one here, and the speedometer in this one is an eye-opener. For 1956, that is a 150 mile an hour speedometer. No, this is not a Shelby Mustang. That was 150. This would not go 150 in stock trim for sure, but it added a bunch of sport. And there's a tachometer in these things too. Basic equipment right there. What's the red line on that thing? Probably 5,000. And this one has the Y block, either the 292 or the 312. Let's take a peek at that. And it was called the Y block because the crankcase extends below the crankshaft. It's like a Y if you look at it from the front. And pretty has the dress-up kit, cast aluminum valve covers. And here's the underside of that ram air, or cold air system I said right here. And here is the opening from the scoop. And this is very much functional. And there's even a little cork door that you can put in the wintertime to keep water and stuff from getting into the air cleaner assembly. And this is an oil bath air cleaner, which is not exactly a modern thing. But with that said, a great looking engine bay. Of course, the small block Chevy, we know what those look like, and that would be a 265 for 1955, the first year for the mighty small block Chevy V8. Similar engine in their performance capability, but again, the Y block's kind of problematic because the lifters are trapped by the camshaft. If you want to do a camshaft swap, you have to pull the heads off. It's a pain in the you know what. But again, a great engine, the Y block, a star on NASCAR super speedways, and even like at Detroit Speed Weeks down in Daytona. But again, just two classic American cars. One was mass-produced for you and me, and then the more exotic one here, this basically took on the Chevy Corvette in the 55, 6, and 7 two-seater era. Of course, 1958, there's become much larger cars, and they sold like 10 times as many. Crazy but true. So the ones to have really are the 55, 6, and 7 if you're a collector and a purist. But if you like a car that handles well and is fun to drive and gets looks no matter where you go, you either want a 56 or a 55 or a 57 T-Bird or a 55 Chevy. Those are winners no matter how you cut it.